And Corey Brewer from Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty joins me to talk about one school district. Now, it's not the only school district. I can actually name others, but this is the one that Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty is dealing with today. Wrightstown, which I believe is kind of on the way, is it on the way to Appleton, something like that?
Hi, Meg. Yeah, it's in that general area.
Okay. So
yes.
That generally, not in our listening area, but so Wrightstown adopts human growth and development curriculum from Wisconsin DPI. And then what does state law mandate that it must then do, Corey?
Yeah, we were contacted by a parent in the community who had begun urging the school district to comply with our state law on human growth and development in February of 2022. So that's kind of where we're starting here, is a parent who attempted at the local level to simply urge compliance with state law over a year ago. And here we are today. The district is still not in compliance. And as you had mentioned, Meg, first of all, school districts don't have to adopt a human growth and development curriculum. But if they do, if the school board does decide to adopt this curriculum, then several requirements are triggered. One of those is an advisory committee, and this school district has not had an advisory committee perhaps ever. And that's a problem because this is a highly sensitive topic. It's an important topic, and our state law requires that parents, community members have a say and advise the school board on what that curriculum for the students will be, and that's not happening right now in Wrightstown. And we've likewise, you mentioned this, we've heard from parents around the state as well that are concerned about whether it's not happening in their district, it's not happening in the right way, it's not happening with transparency. And we really wanted to call on this district, and it's a small community. I think this just shows that this isn't limited to the big school districts. It can be happening anywhere. Parents should be vigilant. And we wanted to really just call on them to comply with our state law.
Well, and other parents, if you're listening and you know that this is going on in a different district, and this is really frustrating, you have to reach out to Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty and say, hi, I'm a parent in the Sun Prairie School District, or I'm a parent, because you have to fight it district to district to district here. And that's immensely frustrating because one district is going to get a letter from Will, but another district is like, well, they didn't write us a letter because no parents have reached out. But this human growth and development curriculum is, when I say controversial, we're talking about utilizing LGBTQ+++++ resources that present sexually inappropriate material based on age. And if you want to go, somebody, next time you see Scarlett Johnson, who's going to give her presentation on this, go see it. Because you don't want your kids to be exposed to that kind of stuff in first grade. So that, number one, human growth and development, according to DPI, is controversial. So if your district adopts it, they need to present the information to parents so parents have a full picture of what is about to go forward. And then those parents can advise the school board whether to adopt materials from it, exclude materials from it. That's the whole idea behind the statute, correct?
Right. The explicit intent of the statute, and it says this right in the law, is to create a partnership between parents and schools in the district. And they're the two big overarching requirements. There's some specific requirements as well, but the two big overarching requirements for this content is that it be medically accurate and age appropriate. And this isn't why we're writing to Wrightstown. We wrote to Wrightstown because they're not in compliance with having an advisory committee. And there's some concerns about transparency and parents not being given full information. But when we talk about the statute as a whole, this content needs to be medically accurate and age appropriate. And when we're talking about this topic just in general, I think that's why we need this advisory committee.
Oh, my goodness.
That's why we need parents to know what's going on.
Let's debate whether some of it's, medically accurate. I don't think the genderbread person is medically accurate. I don't think, sharing information with second graders about, certain types of sexual behavior is medically or is age appropriate. But I mean, there are some absolutely at least debatable items within the DPI curriculum. By the way, this is being adopted. School district. I'm guessing most school districts are probably just mailing it in and just saying, well, it's DPI, so we'll take it. And do they even know that they're violating? Obviously, Wrightstown does, but do they even know they're violating state statute? A lot of these school districts.
Well, to be clear, we haven't seen that egregious of content in Wrightstown at the elementary level. We're more worried about the, community standards, parental involvement, and being notified. But I'm glad you brought that up because that just presents a really good opportunity to talk about this subject and what young children in some other parts of the state and really around the country are being exposed to at such a young age. And we have this law in place that if it were being followed, I think it could really, really provide more information to parents and help what is being taught in our schools actually fit with community standards. And that's why this advisory committee is in place. It lists, parents, teachers, school administrators, healthcare professionals, members of the clergy, all have to be on this committee.
Oh my.
And
there's your community standards right there. Community standards is the problem. Jill Underly just gave her State of Education speech. She didn't mention parents once, except obliquely to take a shot at them for objecting to sexually inappropriate and age inappropriate materials in schools. So the parents were not even part of the conversation in the State of Education speech. But community standards, I mean, what's acceptable in Wrightstown might not be acceptable in another town, or what's acceptable in Wauwatosa. By the way, Wauwatosa has seen the same problem most recently that I can remember, is not maybe acceptable in Lodi, right? So community standards is why you bring, clergy and parents and doctors and, undertakers or whatever to put on the advisory board so that they can say, not here. We're not going to do that here. That's just, no. It's almost, you almost wonder if there isn't, because, well, I should ask this, Corey, are you getting information that there are school districts that are being really vigilant about complying with state statute and engaging the public debate and being totally transparent of the materials DPI is presenting as an option? We're not getting reports, at least the conservative media people, that's happening en masse in our state.
Yeah, likewise. And I think part of that is because we usually get contacted when parents have exhausted their options, or when there is a problem. They don't usually call us to say how great their district is doing, although I'm sure there are plenty of districts out there that are complying with the law. We hear about the ones that are not. And with this statute in particular, it is not hard. It is not difficult to understand. It's not optional. If you're going to teach this content, you have to follow the law. That's kind of the bottom line. And in this instance, having this advisory committee, it is very explicit in our state law that they are to review the curriculum and then advise the school board. And the school board, sure, you had mentioned there's curricula available from a number of sources, but it's ultimately the school board that's adopting the curricula, and they need to make a decision about what's right for the students in their community on this topic. Like we said, it's a sensitive topic, and that's why I think these, the transparency, the procedural requirements, they really do matter.
In fact, they matter the most, because that's the thing that gets parents at the table. And this seems like just a conspiracy almost to make sure parents are not at the table. And I know that the left-wing education establishment does not think parents have a seat at the table. But our state statute says they do. And as you say, Corey, not optional. So if someone out there has been experiencing something similar, and you might not even know, what we found out were that parents in Green Bay got caught off guard, didn't realize that this had been imposed on kids. Wauwatosa, we caught wind of it. However, they, as far as I can tell, were not in compliance with state statute, and that has now been adopted there. So if you are a parent, you need to reach out to Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty if this is going on in your school district. And first thing, maybe find out if it is, because a lot of times parents you're not seeing this publicly noticed, Corey. Hey, everyone, we're going to talk about potentially controversial sex ed standards from DPI that include, some sensitive topics. Would you like to go to a community meeting? We're going to have a town hall. That's not happening.
In terms of what this advisory committee requires, that probably should be happening, and at least give parents and communities an option to know what's going on in the district. This is a public school. It's a government entity, a sensitive topic being taught to children. I think that would actually be a good idea. But you're right. It's not being widely shared in that way. So parents do have to ask questions, and we encourage them doing that. Someone recently said, well, why do you have to threaten a lawsuit? Well, we don't want to file a lawsuit. We want the district to be in compliance with the law. And we've asked that they get back to us by the end of October and that they be in compliance by the end of the year, because our understanding is that this unit is taught in the spring. So it's certainly doable. Parents, feel free to pull. We wrote a letter to the district. It's publicly available. Use it as a resource as you're trying to navigate your own district. And then hopefully, you know what questions to ask. You can know what's going on in your district, and let districts around the state know that this is a requirement if the district is going to adopt a human growth and development instructional program.
Yeah, and go take a look at the actual materials in this human growth and development, and you will say, geez, that doesn't seem to have much to do with human growth or development. Good to have you on the program, Corey Brewer. Thank you very much for joining me on the show today. Wonderful to have you. And thanks to the Homesteader Store as well for sponsoring our hotline. If we had a ethical and just government, it would not require Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty to have to write letters and file lawsuits. It would not require individual parents to have to go to war in over 400 different school districts in the state of Wisconsin. We'd have an attorney general that would be willing to lay down the law and say, you must comply with state law, or the state of Wisconsin is going to be the body you will answer to. But we don't have that. We have a political hack as an attorney general, and a political hack as a governor, and a legislature that, quite frankly, is more interested in giving the Tavern League everything it wants than doing much on behalf of parents. We'll be right back.